Okay, here we are. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is October 5th, 5:31. I'd like to call the meeting of the Property Reuse Committee to order. For a roll call, we have Councilor Bordelon is present and Councilor Westervelt is present, and myself, Councilor McBride. The first order of business is public comment. I'm not seeing anyone at this particular time, so we can refer back to this after if some others come on during the meeting. Communications, the only communications I have received have been the communications via email regarding the Property Use Committee, and I think I'm going to be going through them later on. One draft piece of information I received, not draft, one information I received is from Bob Frink. That email was contained in the package, so you should have all received that. The other information I did receive was an email from Olson, and that contained I'll be going through that later as well, and that contained the information on what he spoke to us about at the meeting in terms of the list of properties that he has put together for the Conservation Commission. So that was in your package as well.
Councilor McBride, I'm sorry to interrupt. You do have a few people that are in attendance. So I don't know if you want to have communications, but I just wanted you to be aware that there are people in attendees.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for letting me know. What we normally do is invite them to come in at public comment, which we moved past. So I'm just going to refer back to that, but I don't see them on my screen. Does anybody else have them?
If you go under participants, a little arrow.
I see them.
Or you hit the
Okay, great. Thank you.
I see that we have Roseanne Katowski, Marianne Furlong, and Robert Frank in attendance.
Okay, yep, I see that as well. So we're going to jump back into, I just want to finalize communication so we don't have to go back and review all that. That's all the communication that I had received to date on property use. I'm not sure if anyone else has received any communication. If so, please bring that forward now if you could.
Just basically kind of what everyone else has received, just the packet that you had sent out. Some conversation with folks in the community regarding, the direction of the Property Use Committee is in relation to some of our developments that we've already had and that are still on the table. Also, just some other communications asking, how could they submit information? And again, I stated, as this starts to kind of move along very quickly, there's a lot of information and all the comments want to be captured. If you could submit something in writing, it's much easier to manipulate the document if we're able to take what you say, cut it, paste it, add it in, negotiate it, talk about it. So any effort to minimize the work would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Councilor Brown.
Yeah, I've had, various people have talked to me about it. And then there's the continued interest, as we spoke earlier, about other people wanting to join in on the discussion, and they've been invited to this. I don't see one of the folks that has expressed an interest in being on the committee, so that when we move forward, we have, citizen participation as well. However, that's what Roseanne and Mary Ellen are there for, as well as Bob Frink. So that's the bulk of the communications that I've gotten regarding this committee.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, so we're going to jump back into public comment. I do see Roseanne has her hand listed, so I'm going to bring her in to talk. Roseanne, you should have the ability to provide your comments. So the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you for sending out the documents. I appreciate it. I appreciate you incorporating some of my comments, especially number 7. I know Bob Frink is on the line, and I want to thank him for the enormous amount of work he did on his submissions. But I also want to follow up on what Scott said. At the beginning of the Property Reviews Committee, it was noted that there may be citizens that were on the committee. And Lauren Gauthier, who is on the Property Standards Board at the state level, as well as an RTM member, she submitted a letter to the Property Reviews Committee saying she would like to be on the committee, and I totally endorse and support that. The same with John Goodrich, who is on the Historic District Commission. And I really would like to see some citizens on the actual committee. So moving forward, I hope you will consider that. And thank you for everything you're doing. And I appreciate that the information is out there before the meeting. Thank you.
Okay,
If
thanks,
I
Roseanne.
may, Lauren Gauthier is who I was referring to as someone who is a citizen who does want to participate. So that'd be great if she were part of it.
Has anybody reached out to her to see if she I mean, until we vote on that, which I think is a great idea, but is she interested in starting to attend?
Yes, I just talked to her tonight.
Yeah, it'd be great for her to come in and start to submit some of her ideas and start organically joining the group in relation, like coming for public comment, as well as submitting some, of her recommendations. So just in, once again, it's good to be involved before, that even happens. So thank you.
I spoke with her. Hello? Am I on?
Yes,
Okay. I texted her tonight and I said, I'm going to put your name forward again. And she said, yes, thank you. So should I have her reach out to you, Counselor McBride?
that would be fine, yes. Or she can jump on one of our meetings, this one or the meeting we'll be having on the 19th.
Same with John?
Yes, and I did receive John's email a while ago. So I haven't
Yeah.
received that since the last meeting, but I do receive them earlier.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And I think we're going to touch upon that a little bit tonight about the committee. There are two other participants. I don't see their hand raised, but do either one of you want to speak? If you do, just put your hand up. I guess Mary Ellen or Bob Frank. Okay, so I think they're good. So moving on, the approval of the minutes. There was a little administrative mishap in the minutes, and it was my fault. I had included August 31st. I had provided that we were going to approve in September 7th. However, the 31st minutes had not been completed, and they're not in your package, so we're not able to approve that. And because I didn't list the 8/17 minutes, I don't think it would be proper to approve that either. Councilor Borderland did have some comments on that, and I just failed to provide them in this meeting agenda. So what I'd like to do is on the 19th of October, I'm going to list both the 17 revised minutes with Councilor Borderland's comments and the August 31st comments, and we can approve them at that time. That way, full transparency as we try to make sure we're doing for the membership, they can see all those changes. I did include in the agenda the minutes for the September 7th meeting, which was quite lengthy. I'm not sure if anyone's had an opportunity to review that. Hopefully you have. And if you have any comments, let's share them now. Make changes to them. If not, I tried to capture as much of the conversation that we had. It was great dialogue, great discussion, a lot of comments. But I'm here to either entertain a motion to approve or make revisions, or how would you like to proceed, councilors?
I don't know if you want to mute Roseanne. I don't think she's hot mic'd.
Thanks.
We
all set.
Thanks. I think these are great. I think you tried to do your best to capture on the 3 pages of minutes notes. So I think this is a great representation. So I do appreciate that. As far as the previous minutes, I do agree. I did resubmit my comment for to be revised or amended. So I'm fine with waiting on that. So no worries there.
Great. Councilor Westervelt, any comments, or would anyone like to make a motion to approve the September 7th meeting, or would you like to wait and review them, approve them later?
I'm fine with making a motion to approve the minutes that we have before us.
I'll second.
Okay, motion has been made to approve the 9/7 minutes by Councilor Bordelon and seconded by Westervelt. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the 9/7 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 3-0. All right, next up, the bulk of the business, 6.1 town property reevaluation process, reuse process. So I'm going to try to kick some things off, and I've been doing some thinking. And what really occurred to me was when I went through the minutes and painstakingly tried to draft them up, I realized there was so much information, a wealth of information that everybody provided at that 7th meeting. And what occurred to me was one of the objectives of, I think, this committee is to develop something that's going to go to the council, and the council makes changes or whatever, ultimately approves it. One of the items that our objective is to develop a committee of folks that are going to approve and review and move forward that RFP process. So as I was going through this, my thought was, should we at some point, either now or soon thereafter, begin to incorporate residents into this committee? But as important as residents, some of the people who are going to be on the committee in the future, such as the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Conservation Commission, the Groton Housing Authority has some interest, and so forth. So my thought was, I wanted to get your thoughts, councilors, on whether we should begin to extend this committee now to get those parties that are involved, because in my opinion, going through this, they really have the expertise on what we're doing, and I think it would be helpful to get them involved now in this process, so we can refine this document. So when we come out of it, and maybe it's phases. Maybe we do a phase now and we develop it, because we've done many phases already. But maybe we take the comments that we received from the 7th, refine the document, make it solid, and then begin to seek additional members of this committee to take it to the next phase. So I would just like to hear your opinion. But I think we're at a point where, at least in my opinion, we've got a lot of comments. We can make some changes, but I feel like I would like to have some more professionals involved in helping guide this to get it really fine-tuned and documented and good to go. So when we present it to the council can be assured that it wasn't, only the 3 of us, but it was vetted out through the community, through residents. Many professionals have the expertise in planning and zoning, the conservation, and then it's a fully vetted document. So I just would like to hear your thoughts on that, and when and if we should seek to move in that direction, if you think that's appropriate.
Yeah, so I guess I'll go. I think that's a great idea. I do think, though, we have the discussion or additions. Some people emailed stuff in, some's captured in the minutes here. I think we should then get to a stopping point on things we want to add as the 3 of us into the document before we move to the next phase. I think the next phase is definitely coming. I think it's important that we solidify that first, because as you add more people, it will, you're going to be coordinating a bunch of people's times trying to meet, and it could slow things down in some capacity. I'm all for open, transparency and stuff. So I definitely think we should move towards that. At what point, I'm not sure. So I have a question. The minutes that we have here do not reflect the current document. Is that correct? None of these are in there.
That's correct. Our role now, what I envisioned, was the 3 of us or an extended committee, however we decide, would then take these recommendations and vet them into the document to come up with a more solidified document.
I mean, it can go one or two ways. I do think, I do think that I think we should. Is there a problem that we can't put these in the document?
No, there's not a problem at all. I'm just, trying to seek in the long run. I think it's good to get, as we all do, get the residents involved, get the, what I'm considering the professionals in the area.
I guess what I envision is then taking all of these, infusing them into the document, presenting a finished product thus far from us.
Okay.
So with the comments that we have in the minutes here, we should go through those tonight, see where we think that they should go. I mean, this is not going to be a perfect document, but we should have something from the 3 of us that we're pushing forward as we're bringing in. So by the next meeting, this should all be infused, or any other new comments that may have come. I do think at that point, we could open it up for, I think more people are going to probably want to be involved, especially coming after the whole Restford development ordeal. So I think if we could kind of solidify this so it's a readable document to the best of our ability, and then start to bring in other folks. But we're going to have to test and see what times work, when, the frequency, because, we just need to make sure everybody can meet around the same time. So we can start putting those feelers out now. And in the meantime, by the next meeting, kind of start to move this stuff into the document. That would be my recommendation. And then from there, we'll start cutting and pulling from there. Once we have all the ideas, as I stated, cutting and pasting, once you have all your ideas in the document, it is much easier to move as a group with other people coming in with new ideas to add in and subtract if we already have everything in one readable, movable document. So I think the work that we've created and the work of all the people that have already come before us, I think would be very helpful. We do offer public comment at every meeting. We allow people to speak. We've asked several times for people to submit things. So I think we should take what we have now, put it into the document, and then yes, start to open it up to the community. And how many members are we thinking on here? How many from each one? What will that look like? I'm all ears, open. I think it's a great way to move forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Westervelt?
Yes, I agree with pretty much everything that Councilor Bordelon said. And, I'll point out that, I think we had to get to a point where we're ready to bring people in. And if we have a finite number of comments that still need to be merged into the document, and I believe we can probably have that done before our next meeting, then we could probably start inviting other people into that. And so by the 19th, by that next meeting, I would like to be able to do that. Now, when we start talking about the numbers, if the group gets too big, it's going to be cumbersome to deal with. I think that if we want to put something out to EDC, then EDC should put forth a single member to join us. And, basically pick one from those entities that want to help us with this. And then, one or two citizens, and that should be big enough. I think if we start inviting two or three, then we'll basically lose the footprint of this committee to other entities. And we don't want that to happen. Does that make sense?
Yes, all great points. So just so I make sure we're on the same page, our goal, we're going to move forward. We're going to review the comments tonight, kind of take a high level of which ones we want to incorporate in that. We'll make edits or changes. And the goal would be to have this document, we'll toss it around ourselves for the next week or week and a half. And our goal would be to have this document in better shape with the comments we received to date for the 19th. That's one phase. The second phase, it sounds like, to begin after that, to begin to enlarge this committee, it sounds like by a few people, nothing significant. And I guess with that being said, I think it's somewhat easy to approach the various agencies, whether it's the EDC or the RTM or the planning and zoning or conservation. Where I think it will get tricky is deciding on residents. So do we want to do anything now? Because I think that will take some time. Do we want to put a feeler out there now where if residents have an interest to send us an email explaining their interest at this point, because it'll probably take a couple of weeks to do that, if not longer. So I'd like your feedback on that.
So for me, again, as we try to move what we feel is important to move into this document, I think we also should keep a word bank, a good document. So we have all of our submissions, and then what we pull out of there goes into what we think is starting to become our pre-final document. But do not get rid of any of those other submissions, because as we bring more people in, those ideas somewhere on a separate sheet, bullet pointed, would be nice to have, because as we organically move through this document, we may see things that make more sense now as to why we might want that one over here on this word bank and move it over. So anything that's been submitted thus far, anything that's to come in, I think we just bullet point it, keep it in an ongoing document where we can kind of slide and move as needed. That's just one of my suggestions. I know for myself in the past on other things I've served on where we got a little crazy, and next thing you know, you had the document and we had to go back and dig for all those other ones that we wish we would have added. So I just want to find a way that we have a working document and then a bank of ideas, so to speak. I can agree that yes, we have to make sure that we have people that are willing to attend. So that's going to be one of the requirements. I'm a firm believer you can't do it if you're not willing to show up. So we have to have people that are going to commit, that can come, so we don't slow down the process and have to relive the process each time. So we need people that are going to make the meetings and be deliberate in the action items that we set forth. So the commitment has to be there. So yes, that would be definitely something to put out. Also, how do we pick? I know 2 names were put forward. Myself being in good faith, I think both of them are wonderful people, know them both personally, but I could not select just the 2 of them when there's a whole pot of people in our community. So that section is going to be kind of hard, is if we're going to limit it to 1 or 2, it needs to be a process. I would hate to not invite Mary Ellen Furlong, who's in attendance tonight, who's actually attended actually probably all of our meetings, maybe except for one that I can remember. Okay, so that's showing involvement. Bob Frank has also been coming to a lot of our meetings. So I just don't want to miss someone. Roseanne's been coming, and maybe she doesn't want to be on. I'm not saying that in a way that, John Goodrich or Gothier cannot, but we just need to not exclude other people that are showing interest. I also do think we need somebody from the environmental aspect. I think it'd be very important, as we, made a commitment to the town by signing a document under my last term, that we were going to be in more look at the resiliency and sustainability and conservation aspect of our community. And so with that, when looking at that, it would be great to have someone that represents that entity as well. Maybe once they hire the actual position in the town, it could be that person. But in the meantime, there's other resources in our community that we could utilize. So I think one of them should also be added. Maybe it's that attendance is not, required for every meeting, maybe for just the item that we're looking to discuss, right? I don't know. Or maybe I'm open to a lot of ideas. The hard part is, what community members do we put on here that are just residents, that are not RTM, that are not on any boards and commissions, that are simply good standing citizens that really care about this document? So I'm a little torn.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely a complicated matter to discuss. So, Councilor Westwell, any comments on the next steps with that as Portia?
No, I have no additional comments on that.
Okay. All right. So, moving on, we will seek, I guess the overriding question I'm looking for your thoughts on: should we solicit interested parties now to send something in, or should we not do anything formal and allow those who are interested on their own to solicit their desire at this point in time?
Yeah, that's tough. And do we want district representation? Because then when I think of that, that's 7, community members that, I mean, I know John Goodrich and Gothier make up only 2 districts, out of the 7. So I'm also concerned, because what's the issue in my neighborhood is not going to be their issue. What's the issue in Mrs. Furlong's neighborhood might not be the issue in their neighborhood. So where do we cut that line? I'm not sure. Do we take applications? Yeah, maybe we put it out there and say we'd love to have as much district representation as possible, or people that have a background in some of this too. I mean, that's another important piece. So do we have them write an inquiry letter stating like what their thoughts and why they think they'd be a good member? I don't know. I don't know if we'll even have that much interest. So
all right, so why don't we do this? Hearing a discussion on the members, it's nothing I think we have to act upon tonight. We have some more time, and I think on the 19th we should probably come to an agreement on how we're going to move forward and solicit resident participation, so that way we can get something out. But for now, our focus is on incorporating the comments we've received to date. But just keep that in the back of your mind. That will be a goal for the 19th, to come out of that meeting with how we want to proceed with soliciting or not soliciting. If we could decide to not solicit, we just want general organic participation, from members who want to be on the committee. So either way, but let's try to wrap that up on the 19th. And for now, we're going to move on to.
I had one more question. Sorry, Councilor McBride. Could it be possibly that it's more organic in nature? Are we looking for voting members, or are we looking for people to submit ideas? So it might be that in one day this person comes, it might be in the next day, we still would have public comment, I would think. So members from all different districts are welcome to show up and submit ideas. So it's an open forum. Are they voting members, or are we just looking for, I'm just kind of confused. I just want to make sure.
I think that's what we need to discuss. I envision this committee getting a little bit larger and everyone having an equal vote. because I think your point's valid. Anyone has the ability to participate and comment at any time. So I envision this as voting representations of a few of the agencies that are critical, and maybe that's a rotating position every other quarter, every other month or whatever. That way you have representation from each of the main agencies. But I think Councilor Westerville's point was, if you open it up to the 5 or 6 we're talking about, it may be too large. So maybe it's a rotating agency membership. But I think it's important to have them going through there at all times to get their opinions on these documents and the process as we move on, because they ultimately are going to be involved in the committee that's established by the council, at the later date. So I think my thought was to get them involved now, and the same with the residents. I think we want some of them as voting members if we come to that determination. That was my thought. But again, I'm just one vote, so happy to hear whatever you think. And maybe it is a rotating. Maybe the 7. Maybe it's a rotating of 7 to keep all the various areas involved in this document. So, Councilor Westervelt?
Yeah, I think, as we were speaking earlier, I realized that this is the high level committee document that is going to generate, in the future, how the RFPs are going to be processed and that sort of thing. And I know we talked about, we've got the list of properties around the town in the various districts that will be addressed by those RFPs. So we may not, we may want 1 or 2 people to be part of this higher level. And then as we start targeting or as we're asked to target specific properties, then that's when representatives from those specific areas really want to be involved. Because like you said, something, like was said, something could be going on over in Portia's area of town that's not going on over here. So do we really want, people, I don't want this to sound wrong, because everybody's input is important, but they have a different, they look at it from a different aspect than people on a different section of town. And so the things that they know that are inherent in where they live, where they grew up, what they know about their own areas is, and I hate to say more important, but they have a better idea. So if we try to get the same, 7 people every week, or every 2 weeks, every month, or whatever it is, I just think it'll be more cumbersome. So from a higher level standpoint, I don't think we need as many people now as we will need when we start looking at actual RFPs and actually looking at the properties that we're assigned to address. Is that okay?
Yep, that makes sense. Yep, I agree. Any other comments? Councilor Bordelon?
I also think that it's really important that we reflect on the fact of our failures in our past, and don't want to say failures, but I'll use a better word, things we learned from. We've learned a lot. And this is one of the reasons that, one of the reasons I recommended this committee to be formed as a referral item. I do think, though, it's important that it's not too town staff heavy. I think it really should be an organic process that we, as the taxpayers, put forward our ideas into this document and submit it to the town as like, we've seen what's happened. This is what we want, and this is how we think we should run it. Obviously, input would be helpful, but I do really think it should be organic in nature. I also think that it was stated there should be someone from P&Z, also somebody from wetlands. So, wetlands is, different than P&Z. So I think we really need to bring them in. I guess the hardest part for me is really, once the draft is final, we will have a public hearing of sorts or comment, which anybody can come out from any district, from anywhere, and ask we can take their input on this. So I think that's going to be nice. But I am concerned, how do we select those 2 people or 3 residents? I agree, it's the high level quality, but 2 names were thrown tonight, but I would, as much as I want to just say, let's take them, we have to allow other people to put their name forward as well. So that's the only hiccup I'm seeing. So as long as we have someone there that could be, they're from wetlands, P&Z, You know, I definitely think, you know, someone from the resilience and sustainability aspect, I think it really, and it could be an alternate, maybe, you know, maybe there's another person, you know, where other people may come in if the other person can't. But it could be like Councilor McBride stated, where it could be where tonight we're talking more about this section, so therefore let's bring this person in. But I don't think the group should grow too big. But I do think that we need to figure out how we are going to select the 2 or 3 residents to join. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Westervelt, do you have some more comments?
Yeah, and understanding, you know, where we are and, you know, how long we've been working with this committee. You pretty much have been very diligent at putting out during our town council meetings that we have this other meeting coming up and inviting the public to participate. And we have had a core group of residents who have attended and who have expressed interest. I think over the last 4 months and however many meetings that is, it's been, you know, those who have already emailed that they want to be part of this. And also the Roseanne and Mary Ellen and Bob have been core to being there the whole time. So I know that Lauren and John Goodrich have expressed interest in being part of the committee. And I do know that Roseanne and Mary Ellen and Bob have put forth a lot of, you know, input. So if they're interested, then we need to give them that, you know, opportunity. I don't know that we have to go out and make another big announcement, because like I said, you're mentioning it at every town council meeting that we're having this meeting. Come on out and join us. So I'm not sure how much more advertisement we need to make to get other people. I think that'll just delay the process for this, you know, higher level look down on the committee, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, those are all good points. So it sounds like, to summarize, we're all looking to implement the comments that we received into the current document we have amongst ourselves, you know, put forth in there and then review it and then come to an agreement on what's going to go into the document, what's going to come out. But that's more of a focus at this point than development of the committee, which we can do as a follow-up. That's safe to say.
Yeah, and I can agree with Scott Westervelt, but I can disagree on some point, unfortunately. Sorry, Scott. But
come on, no.
I do feel that, I think, you know, I'll speak for myself. I've been busy with Branford Manor, the data center, you know, document, looking over all that stuff, the wrestler things for the last, you know, year and a half, 2 years, followed by, you know, many other items. This, you know, people do lose focus and pulse. And so, to be fair, so nobody can say that we did not, I think now that we're at the phase of looking for people to join, I think it's very important that we are very public about it one more time. And then I'm willing to say, let's move forward. But I do think the ask should be one more time. So thank you.
And with all due respect, that opportunity can come up at next week's Cal meeting, you know, because we will have a meeting the following week. And so there's actually two Cal meetings before our next meeting, correct? Am I right?
Next
Tuesday and the following Tuesday, right?
Yes. Yeah, because
So
it'll be
that's
the day after the meeting. Actually, no,
Right, but it'll say
there's
again?
just one cow, because there's a cow and then there's the personnel. And we'll be a day after the personnel, I think.
Okay, so there's not a Cal that next the 18th or whatever.
Let me take a
I
look.
haven't looked at the
I
calendar.
think we're always off the third week.
Okay, then yeah, I guess that will be the third week, but suffice it to say, next Tuesday is another opportunity before our next meeting. And we can make it a, you know, again, tell everybody in the public, anybody who's listening to the meeting, let them know that we are having another meeting on the 19th and that citizens are welcome to come out and express their interest. And if they're interested in, you know, in helping serve on the committee or support the committee, please, you know, let us know that.
Right.
And that would satisfy our,
Yep.
asking again.
Yep. And then the public comment will stay. So if it's a person who can't make a commitment, they can show up to any meeting and drop us a recommendation at any point. Door's always open. So that's another way to be involved if you can't, get a seat. So. All right.
Okay, good. All right, so on the same page. So next is actually review the document. So as I was spending some time on this, my thought was to take a lot of the comments that people have reviewed and to put them in this document. So I'm not sure if anyone wants to, if we want to go through this. I don't think we want to go through in painstaking detail every specific line item, but I think there's general themes that we should discuss to see. And I can go through and make the edits on the document itself, and then send that out to both of you to review and comment prior to the 19th. So when I say prior to the 19th, prior to probably the 15th or so we can get this document out in a better form with all these comments. So I'm not sure if you want to just look through the meeting minutes that are up, and I can bring that on my screen if that helps. Just want to make sure I'm getting the right document here. Is the meeting minutes on the screen?
Your Explorer window's open. Your folders.
Oh, okay, so I'm not on the right. Let's try this again. How's that?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
that's the draft special meeting minutes.
Yes, yeah, so these are the minutes from the last meeting, so I'm not sure if you want to just quickly go through this and provide any comments you have, because my thought was I was going to incorporate these comments in there, and I have, some areas highlighted, so.
Are you able to make it a little larger, just
Yes,
the font size, maybe a little bit?
certainly. Yeah, let me- Can't move this guy. How's that?
Much better. Perfect. That's good.
All right,
Thank
so we'll just touch upon this quickly. So Tom Olson, his main discussion, not to summarize what he said, but just to try to save some time. He discussed the listing of the 4 categories. He suggested he would want to take a different approach and to utilize the Conservation Commission's approach. And to summarize, he had said that for us to come up with a grandmaster listing may take a little bit too much, that we should focus on a higher level. He's going to be involved as a Conservation Commission. So any comments? I guess the main thing we need to discuss with him is, in your package, you did receive his and I don't think we have to discuss it necessarily tonight, but he did send in the package his summarized property listing. So the thought was that we could include this in this as well as the one that we already have in there. So any comments? I think you had the opportunity to read his paragraph. Any thoughts on his comments?
Just a quick stab at it. I really like the part where he said there's over 70 easements around town. That line there, that should be reviewed and cleaned up with this process. And he went into great detail about that. That was actually news to me. So it was enlightening to hear, that there are some sections that, really have not been touched upon. And he was concerned that there might be some easements that haven't been properly, if I remember correctly how he stated it, I don't want to say managing correctly, but haven't been put back or in the right capacity. I don't know if you guys remember that discussion.
Yeah, and that's a good example of why I think it would be vital for someone like him to be involved on this committee, because he brings a wealth of knowledge well beyond my level. And it would be helpful to get his comment on how those should be incorporated into this document, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
I do recall saying that.
And what I liked is that he was highlighting a deficiency in our town that nobody has decided to, make a plan for until we decided to pick this apart. So this was a great example of, something that we need to add in. So that, I think so far, though, that's a pretty great statement, and we can incorporate what we have. Again, keep in mind that the document that we're trying to create is not going to be perfect in nature. As we bring in the other people, we can refine it. This is a rough draft.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. So if we miss the way we represent them, unfortunately, we can go back and relook at the tape as well as have them come again and say, is this how you were envisioning it? And edit from there, so.
All right, so I'm gonna add those comments into the document. Any other comments on Tom's comments? All right, scrolling through, Councilor Baumgartner didn't have any specific comments in terms of changing the document, so we'll move on that. He had some very, very good high-level comments. Robert read his email. Now, I kind of have a disconnect here because I don't recall receiving an email from him. I'm not sure if it was my error, but I'm going to have to reach out and find where that email is, because I don't have that email. And I had put it here, attached, but I don't have it. So I can't comment on what he said. So that's my fault, but I will follow up with him and get that email. Bob Frank spoke. He mentioned, one of his big important items was to make sure the housing authority was involved. And I think we all kind of agreed that having the housing authority involved, well, I can't speak for the two of you, but I think it would be important to have him involved in this process as we move forward. He discussed making, he had some good points about making sure our wording was proper in terms of the use of the word character. So we have to refine some of the document for that. He also mentioned somewhere about, he talked about flow charts, and I think that's a great recommendation. So I'll come up with some flow charts to help dial us in as we're moving forward with the process. He did speak about the charter section 3.5, and I need to get a little more information on that, because it was out of, I think it was not necessarily on topic with what we're doing, but he mentioned something about the ABCs and how two counselors can't be on an ABC. So I'm not sure. Did anyone have any thoughts on how that was relative to this particular process?
My understanding from my notes here was that, when forming the final group that we want to form, I think it was making sure those numbers, and if I remember correctly, were aligned to fit what is required.
Oh, I see. So the final document, counselor can't be on this committee.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Once we're done with all of this, like we have the 3 councils, so we're in compliance, right? We don't have 5. But when we're done with this and it's voted on, and then the group that's going to take this document and work with the town to, adhere to it over time, I believe what he was saying, and I could be wrong, was that, we need to be in the ratio compliances.
I see. Okay. No, that makes sense. All right. Ian Thomas, I don't believe had any specific comments on the document, but he did say how he hopes this process and the model can be used going forward. Roseanne had some comments I think we can incorporate as well. She talked about number 6, leaving out parks, so it's possible that should include parks in the discussion. She mentions the members and not ex officio members. The 2 committees, I think we answered her question on that. Is it what the intention was not to have 2 committees? She asked some questions on what if the RTM says no. And she says number 7 undermines it. That's nothing will prevent the council from doing something. So some good points here that we can incorporate in the document. Genevieve Surf, I'll reach out to her. I did not receive, she said she was going to send an email, but I have not received any. I'm not sure if anyone else has.
I can check my emails as well. I'll search her name just to make sure I didn't miss something.
Okay. Again, her conversation was talking, and many, I think, Portia, you commented too, as well as Bob Frank, about having more of a housing component in the document. So I think that was well understood by us in terms of making sure we incorporate more of that. Halzad talked about not defining character, a little bit better definition on maybe utilizing visual character in the document versus character, because sometimes that can become exclusionary. So I think we just need to fine tune some of our wording. He also commented on a long-term strategic plan, and I'm not sure if that's the purpose of our committee, but I think it could be a stem from the future committee to have this more be a long-term document. I think that may come about. That's more of a council discussion, right? On whether or not we want to, develop a longer term master plan and so forth. But I think that may be hopefully forthcoming. I think there's some discussion to maybe move that forward.
I just wanted to go back to my comment here about affordable housing and low income housing as a priority.
Yes,
I firmly believe in that. And the RFP process is another comment of mine on here. I firmly believe like when a town, is looking to develop land or go out to go out to bid. And I mean, we really should have our priorities of what we need in town. And what I'm hearing, is, affordable and low income housing, we should be like constantly monitoring. There should be like a chart, and I heard it like a flow chart, but also some type of chart, a flow chart too, to kind of say, where are we at? Where we're at now and where we might need to be in 20 years may be different. But there should be the priorities of the town and the council and the town's needs should be encapsulated to really fit what we need, not just what we send out there and what comes back as a developer, right? It's not always what we need. And then we're like, oh, wow, look at how much they're willing to offer. Let them build. Here they go. Like, what do we need? We should be sending out bids that reflect the need of our community. And especially with Branford Manor, hearing the lack of low income housing. I just think that we should have somewhere in this document prioritizing the needs of the community before disposing of land and selling it. What are the needs of the community? And I can't emphasize that enough, making sure we are not selling land that the town could be benefiting from or should be looking for the proper development of based on, like the Groton Housing Authority. They have a need, and does that need fit our town? Yes, there's a lot of things in there, but I just don't want to miss that. I think we sometimes rush to these outside developers before looking at our community need. Anyway, that's just me.
yeah, I agree, Portia. I think that's an important piece, and what I think we're lacking as a council or in the community is that master plan. That we have the 2016 plan, but should that be refined and dusted off, or should we use that now as it is, and then refer to that in this document that we're developing? Because I think you're right. What the need of the community is should be in this document. So you're ahead of the curve explaining what you want in the RFP process. So I agree. And somehow we got to get that in here. Just not quite sure how to do it, but yeah, I agree. So let's try to filter that in somewhere. And even if it's an open area, at least we're syncing up with what the community needs, and we'll add that piece in there.
Perfect. And again, we could just put, a floating paragraph, like, because if we're not perfect at this yet, we can move it later. We can, have items that we want in the document that we haven't added, as well as the rough draft of the document. And then we can have a whole word bank of things that we think sound good. We don't want to get rid of them, but we're not sure that they're going to fit.
Right. Agreed. And that's where Mike Kane and he mentioned the 2016 conservation development plan that we could maybe reference in this plan, kind of along the lines of what you're discussing. Next was Robert Morris spoke about, he really talked about the RFP process and making sure the data was contained and making sure we didn't have any issues there. So I think that we just need to streamline the document as we have it now, just to make sure those items that he brought up, we're safeguarding our information and we're not causing anything to be punitive with what we're restrictive, if we're restricting anyone, so that we can incorporate into the comments as well. The other piece of information, so I go through. So here is Bob Frink's comments in red, so we can touch upon these as well. We'll just incorporate these into the document we're going to work on. Suggested that this be done in priority. He talks about the housing authority. This is the multiple office that we referred to. We discussed that. So I think we'll just incorporate some of his comments in the next draft.
And I'm not afraid to ask either someone who's much, I don't call myself an experienced writer by any stretch of the imagination. So it would, I mean, they don't have to be part of the committee. If we know someone that's good at like just taking data and organizing it for us, even if they don't know you don't have to know how everything works just to get this kind of into a draft document, you know what I mean? And then when those other experts come in to help us move it, but maybe there's someone else that's, more of a writer that's willing to just, take all this for us and has more free time than we do to help us incorporate all this. I don't know if that's possible, but I mean, I prefer the rules or whatever, but I think it would be great to have the help.
Okay, no, we can certainly consider that.
Yeah. And once again, they're not making any rules of decision. They're just taking our notes and helping us type out a nice sound document. Just make more of a secretary.
I'm just kind of going through reviewing his comments, because that's where we're at now. We're at the editing stage of putting these comments in.
Right.
I mean, is anyone, I don't hear any objective to be going in and making these edits, so we're all on the same page. I don't see anything glaring from all the comments we received so far.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with Robert Boris's comment, the EDC members, the confidentiality. I mean, I don't think that needs to be added. I know the background check and all that, that's done anyway. I mean, every town, I did some research on that after. Every town that, you hire somebody or you have, a possible bid with them, or you negotiate a job with somebody, they can't tell anybody your credit score. And the council shouldn't even necessarily, these people pass whatever test or background check that we're requiring. Once that's passed, that's all we want to know. When you present before me, I want to see the people who passed the back, outside of that, I don't need to know who didn't and what their score was. So I think the hope of this is that the background check is done. It's understood that it should be confidential, in my opinion. That's what I'm reading everywhere else. I spoke to someone else in another town, and they said, yeah, I know when they vet people, it's nobody. Sometimes it doesn't go past the HR person.
Right. Yeah, it's
it
all
doesn't
done
even-
prior to the. No, good points. All right. So I'm not sure at this point. My next steps, we're going to take the meeting minutes, take the comments from the residents, incorporate them in the document as needed. I'll color code them again as we did last time. Send that revised doc out to both of you. If you could, add comments. I think that's where we're at right now. We just got to incorporate the comments we've received. I think we have a host of comments and go from there. I'm not sure if you have any other thoughts on next steps. I know John Goodrich has joined as well. I'm not sure if I don't see his hand up, but if John, you have anything to comment on, feel free to raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you.
I also just wanted to add that I do think that we need to add in here, and I'll type it up, something more about the RFP process and the development agreement. And, even if we don't have a dual a contract like we had with Rustler, but, it kept at the last meeting with the council, it said over and over, they would just step in. Rustler, if they sold the property, Blue Lotus would just step into the shoes. And that doesn't sit well with me, that we did not have anything in there that gave us any binding or unbinding in nature where we could step away. Because if you do all this background work on a developer, and then before the final contract is done and the deal is done, we're able to just take whatever they give us of a person, that really doesn't help with the process. So I do think, I'm not sure what the exact wording is, I've been kind of typing it up, but we need something to say that we have some form of protections in our development agreement where we have the ability to get out of agreements under certain levels. And that the legal jargon for that, I'm not sure, but I'm concerned that we do leave ourselves very vulnerable in this town at times.
Okay, no, I would agree. So would appreciate if you were able to take that up and send that.
Perfect. I will.
In there.
And I'll try to see if I can look at other towns' agreements and see if I can see their language at all.
Yeah, that would be helpful. That's one thing I know. I think Bob Frink had brought up. If we could find that, I haven't been able to find any myself, but I'll continue to look on what some of the other municipalities are doing.
Okay.
I do see John Goodrich has his hand up, so I'm gonna. John, I think you should be all set. You just need to unmute, I believe.
Yeah, I'm just getting through a dead area here. Give me 1 minute. And Chairperson McBride, thank you for letting me join. Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of follow up with what Councilor Bordelon said. You know, I've done some checking too, and any background or credit information can be kept confidential. And actually, I checked state FOI laws. It's not FOIable, so I don't think that should be a concern at all.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I did get a text from Council Westerville. He had to step away. He's going to jump back in a few minutes, but he's not present now. So at this point, Portia, I think our process is to make these edits into that document, submit more participation from the residents, get this document out there again for the 19th, and continue to solicit comments and then build that committee. I think on the 19th, we should have some good discussion on what we should do for the committee and if we are going to expand it and where we go from here. But I think that's all I thought we had to cover tonight. I'm not sure if there's anything else you'd like to discuss.
No, I just want to offer, if you need any help with editing, you know, I know you work full time and run around with kids like I do. So if there's any way we could, you know, if you need more help, I mean, I think it's not fair just because you're the chair to have to, you know, it's a lot.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I maybe calling for some help. So thank you.
I'm willing to, if you have all the stuff, I'm willing to help and take a stab at trying to help too. I don't know. I don't know if you already have a document up, but you know, I think, you know, any way we can kind of work to take the pressure off of you as well. You know, I think it's important too. So.
Well, thank you for that. I think your point on the bank of information is important too. We got to make sure we retain everything we receive. So.
Yes.
Good
Yep.
point on that. Okay, Councilor Westerville, I'm not sure if, you are on. Are you, any other comments you have? We're kind of wrapping things up here.
Yeah, I've been listening. I just had
Okay,
to step
great.
away from my computer, so I've been listening on my phone, so that I could keep up. So yes, I am still here. I just had to step away from the actual computer.
Understood.
And I have no additional comments. Everything, all that sounded really good.
Okay, good. So at this point, unless there's anything else anyone would like to say, entertain a motion to adjourn, and we'll look forward to revising the document and having a productive meeting on the 19th.
Nope, that's it. I think this is great. And I really enjoy working with you guys, and I'm really excited. I think this is a step in the right direction. And I think this committee is one of the first steps in trying to, you know, merge some of our concerns in our community.
So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, motion to adjourn, Councilor Westerville, seconded by Councilor Bordelon. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right,
I'm in favor.
motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, residents, for coming out as well. Have a good night, everyone.
Y'all have a great night. Thank you.
Take care.